Counselor Accents Podcast. Two school counselors who love their jobs. Oh, and they happen to have Southern accents too. Bless their hearts.
I'm Laura Rancourt.
And I'm Kim Crumbly. And together we are Counselor Accents. And Laura, this has been a long time in the coming, right? In the making.
This is like, if we had a walkway of Hollywood stars, like in Hollywood, then our guest today would be front and center with her Hollywood star. It's like she's the counselor of all counselors. Like, I feel like we need to stand.
If we were at Grauman's Chinese Theater and in the educational footprints, hers would be front and center.
Yes. We have Carol Miller with us, and I just, like, she needs a standing ovation right now, which you can't do because you're recording this in your car. But otherwise, we would give you a standing ovation, Carol.
It's actually my great big van, so I can stand up in it.
Well, you guys are making me like all beat red and stuff like that. I do not deserve all that attention, but
we beg to differ.
What?
We beg to differ, and Laura, it just leads me into when we went to Boston and we were invited to the Carol Miller meet and greet.
Please, this is like I've been waiting to apologize to Carol on your behalf for 2 years now. So I told her we have got to go because you were hosting a meet and greet in Boston. And I said, we've got to go to this because, I mean, you're like, first of all, you're on Teachers Pay Teachers as the middle school counselor. You put out like 100,000 products a day. I don't even know how you do it. And they're so helpful and practical. And then you have a Facebook group. You're a celebrity. And so I said, we've got to go to this.
Plus a state leader in her state.
Yes.
So we'll get into that. But yes.
I wanted to make sure that we were fresh as a daisy for this meet and greet with you. So I insisted that we go back to our room and take a nap so that we would be at our top notch whenever we met you. Little did I know, she shuts down after a nap. Like, when she takes a nap, I know now that she's done for the rest of the day.
I said, please, let's not take a nap. Let's just keep going. No, we took a nap. And so it was like I woke up it was like I had a hangover. I was barely functioning. And she said I was embarrassing her the way.
She came down practically wrapped in her duvet from the hotel room. I was like, oh my goodness, I cannot believe this. I thought she was just being like belligerent, like my 4-year-old, insisting like that she didn't want to take a nap. And I thought, no, I'm the mother. I will make you take a nap. But it turns out she really doesn't need a nap.
No, it was bad. So I vaguely remember being there. But
she didn't even make complete sentences. It was awful. So I'm sorry.
I doubt you made that because we were just one of your many fans. I know you don't remember that, but we enjoyed that and getting to meet you. And are you going to be doing that again? Can we do a do-over?
Yes, we can have a do-over. We're going to do it again in Vegas this time. So we do one every year at the ASCA conference. So it's kind of fun. Boston was really small.
Yeah.
It was a little tiny group. But we've had like 100 people or so at some of them show up.
Wow.
We'll see how many show up this time. It should be exciting.
Yeah, we're excited. And please re-invite because, yes, we were embarrassing, but we promised to behave this time.
That's okay. I think I was a hot mess then too. So.
So we want to get into all of the things that you have going on. And like we said before we started this, I'm mainly concerned about your sleep schedule. And this is actually an intervention because we're concerned because you've got so many things going on. Like, I don't even know, you're a superhuman because like I mentioned before, you have your Teachers Pay Teachers store. You are a state leader. You have new projects that we'll talk about. How in the world do you do all that you do?
And you're an elementary counselor now, correct?
I'm an elementary counselor, and I'm a mama to 3 boys, and we do the hockey thing and the track thing and the, where are we traveling to next thing. So, yeah, life is
Wow. So why don't you introduce yourself to our listeners?
All right. So I am Carol Miller. People, I guess, know me as the middle school counselor. Yeah, if you are on social media for, Teachers Pay Teachers. And I wear a counselor hat a lot. My school counselor hat is almost always on, but occasionally I do take it off. But even when I'm playing mama, my boys are like, okay, mom's wearing her counselor hat. So they know me and they kind of are okay with it. I like to have many things in the fire at one time. I like to juggle, and I try not to be a hot mess when I do it. So let's go with that.
Well, you do it well.
Yeah.
So if you can, because we're like, I'm barely dragging myself out of bed and getting to work. And we thought, well, Carol's got this going and this going and this going, and we're in awe. And we're like, what? When does the woman sleep? But you really do a great job. And I guess all those years of experience help. And there are that personality types that can juggle several different things at one time.
Well, it's like it goes through phases, so sometimes I really feel like I'm going to, I have this great idea, I'm going to roll with it, and I'm going to work on something new and something fun. And then there are times that I'm just like, I just feel like watching Netflix. Like, what's on TV? And all I want to do is like run through every single episode of whatever new show has caught my fancy. So
that's good to know. That makes me feel better.
Yeah. Well, let's dive in. The first thing I want us to talk about is you have devoted some time here recently to helping people that want to get a counseling job know kind of the ins and outs of interview questions, and just you've been coaching counselors to be on interviews. So let's start there.
So I have been probably reviewing resumes now for, gosh, it seems like so long. Back in the days when I was a high school counselor. So we're going back like at least 15 years. And I started just reviewing resumes for my friends. And then I started a little resume reviewing business. And I would review, I don't know, probably 10 or so resumes each year. And then it got bigger and bigger. And so I said, I'm just going to do this on Facebook this year because I don't have time to review 100 resumes. I just can't do it. And so as I started doing that, I said, let's talk about interviewing too, because we have so many counselors out there. And we were going through interviews in my district and actually my building. So I got to be on the interview team for my building. We just hired a brand new counselor, brand spanking new to counseling, and
wow,
we're excited to have him. But it's really hard, and you watch these people, and they get so nervous, and they're so like eager for their first job, and so it's trying to help them, I think, feel a little bit more at ease.
That is so valuable.
It is so valuable. That is a great thing because we hear a lot of counselors who are not exactly sure how to go about getting that job, or what do they need to be prepared. So I think you're going to have a lot of folks, and I only see our field expanding and growing as the needs of our students grow. So I think that's wonderful thing you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And our newest counselors, the ones that are really fresh out of the gate, they've been robbed a little bit too this year. COVID has really impacted the experiences that they've had. And so, like our New York friends here, most of our interns haven't even really been in a classroom. They've just been trying to get their experience through this virtual world. And let's face it, last year, nobody knew what they were doing. And so their experiences are kind of sad, right? And so they don't have a lot of the experiences to draw back on and talk about when they're going through these interviews.
I'm so glad you mentioned that. And let's camp out there for just a minute, because we have had that question asked, how, as a new counselor or as someone that just went through my internship or whatever, we had the question, how can I differentiate myself from someone that does have classroom experience when all of my experience has been virtual or whatever? What would you tell that counselor to be?
I don't think you need experiences in everything. I think you just have to be energetic about wanting to learn and have those experiences. I think right now our counselors know that they're part of the role, especially our elementary counselors coming into the field. And while they might not have those experiences, they can say, hey, I haven't had the opportunity to really practice my craft yet, but I've had the opportunity to develop my own lesson, or I really was able to do some more research about what goes into a lesson plan. And I'm really excited to do this, moving forward. So they just have to show that eagerness.
And also what I'm hearing as you're talking is being honest and not trying to act like they have experienced something that they haven't, but just be honest that, hey, I haven't done this, but I do have this. So many times I feel like new counselors, in fact, I was talking to my principal about this, new people want to come in and act like they know this and this and this, they know it all. And sometimes that doesn't get them the result that they want.
And sometimes you're right. Sometimes it's a turnoff.
Yeah.
I would like your take, Carol, on, I know this is not everywhere, but I would like your opinion on this. A lot of times we feel like, and we have said this, that a lot of new counselors are coming out of college and they've had psychologists but they've really not, they've got the brain stuff, but they don't have enough of the rubber meets the road stuff, because it's not really, they may not have they may not have school counselors teaching in any of those courses. Do you find that to be true in some colleges or most?
In New York, yeah, we actually see a lot of that. I do know some programs where it's really hard for them to find a counselor educator who is a former school counselor. We have a lot that are coming from maybe school social work backgrounds or mental health perspective. And in New York, those programs really overlap a lot now, even though they're separate degrees. And to move from one degree to another, you have to basically redo the whole program. But there is a lot of overlap in the course content. And so I'm not always sure that you try to follow an MTSS model, and if the social worker, a former social worker, is teaching a foundations course in school counseling, you really want to make sure that they are really looking at a tier one's lens. Like, what does that program look like in this tier? And so they have to have that classroom experience and that classroom know-how. So it's going to be important moving forward.
Yeah, I think that's a good message, and maybe people who make the decision at the university and college levels are listening, because they do come out from a lot of places saying, I have no idea now what to do. We're just not getting enough rubber meets the road. How does this look in the real world with school counseling? So
it's an ever evolving field, right? And so
yes.
What I learned way back, a really long time ago, let's not go there, but way back then, in the Stone Ages, we didn't do half the stuff that we do now, right? There was still
so true, yeah,
college stuff, and I know that's we really were using the school counseling term, and title, but still the focus is on being the old guidance counselor, where you're still really working in college admissions, and you make sure that you have your internship in a high school. I was lucky enough to do one in the middle school, so I got a little taste of everything way back in the day. But it was, even elementary school counselors. And when I was first hired, I was elementary for 1 day a week and middle school for the other 4 days. At the elementary level, I didn't do what I'm doing now.
Right. Sure. Yeah. It really has evolved, and in a good way. I really do not know. I did not know what I was doing when I walked into the school. It just I built a program, but then I had to rebuild it once I really understood what my role is. So I think that's a wonderful thing that you're doing, and I hope our listeners who, and we have a lot of new counselors, or they're looking for jobs. So I think this will be beneficial for them with what you're doing. So we'll link all that, right, Laura?
Yes, we sure will, Kim.
Oh, meaning I will not and you will.
Right.
That's what you're meaning by that. So we need some mediation. So this large Facebook group, how do you what are your numbers like, and how do you manage that, and how often do you have to take care of answering and all those things? How do you work that in?
Well, I have a lot of groups. I have the elementary school counselor exchange, and there's about 30,000 members.
Oh, is that not crazy?
It is.
Yeah, the middle school has about 20,000, and then our high school counselors, well, they don't need as much help because we only have about 10,000 of them.
Oh, think of how much help you're providing these counselors, because I get 100 notifications a day, like so-and-so posted an elementary counselor exchange, and everything somebody asks, I'm like, oh, I need to follow that, and I need to, because it's helpful to me too. Right. And so you're providing so much help to all of us out here. Just this forum that you've created. I can't thank you enough for that.
Well, it's all about collaboration, right? It's collaboration over competition. There's no competition. It's
right.
How can we learn and grow from one another, and how can we make ourselves even better? Mm-hmm. So my whole philosophy with pretty much everything is, we're better together, and how can I make the good even better?
That's so good.
Yeah, we have heard that. We have picked that message up from you in the past, that we're here to help one another and to build one another up, and we love that message.
Kim, did you have a question?
No, go ahead, because I know you will say you have the talking stick, so you have it.
Let me say this. When you ask a question, I feel like Carol is straining to understand your accent, and if I need to translate, I will. So just let me know. If you need to type your question in the chat, Kim, then I can translate for you.
Well, let me fill you in on a little something, all right? So,
okay.
As you guys are talking, I'm like responding in my own little Southern drawl in my mind. I don't want to say it out loud because you'll be like, "What's wrong with this woman?" I'm saying it in my little own Southern drawl here.
I love it.
I love it. You're so funny. I had no idea you were so funny. I love that. I do those things too, but sometimes I do it out loud. Like I'll be talking to somebody and I will pick up and they're like, "You are not from London."
Okay, it's embarrassing, and I've been a witness to this. She is what I call a cultural chameleon, where she will adapt herself, and she may not even realize she's doing it. And we'll go to a restaurant, and if the person talks to her a certain way, she mimics it back unintentionally. And I'm like, you are embarrassing me.
So, Carol, you just draw away.
It's so funny.
And yes, I will. I will put my. But I don't know if it helps if we put it in the chat. If we, it still may not translate. So you let us know. And same with us. If we're not understanding you, we'll let you know.
Well,
go ahead, Laura.
I want to talk about something you mentioned a minute ago, where you talked about how the job has evolved from when we all first started. And now when you mentioned MTSS, I thought, I didn't learn about that in school. That's been something that I've had to dig on my own, and it almost feels like sometimes everybody knows about it, and then here we are like, oh wait, MTSS. And, what would you tell somebody on how to stay on top of things like that? What advice would you give them?
I think you just have to be current with what the role is of the profession, right? And I think there's a role with MTSS, especially as this is really, I think, important information for our new people entering the field, because there's such competition, I think, sometimes in different buildings or different places for job positions. Is it the school counselor? Should we hire a social worker? Right? And so you have to know these things so that you can advocate for why it shouldn't be an or, but a both.
Yeah, that's good.
They're both part of the solution to the long-term problem of providing the best resources for kids. Mm-hmm. So we never want to be in an or, we want to be in a both. And
oh,
difference.
That's profound, because I think a lot of counselors don't really realize that we're not territorial. If you have a social worker that you're working with, a mental health therapist that's in your school, all those people just make my life more productive with the students, and it's so profitable for the whole school. So you're right. I think that's such an important message, that advocate for those specialties that can help your program. And I really do not know what I did before social worker and mental health therapists were in my school. I really don't know how I did it. And I was there, and you probably remember those days too, Carol, when that was not. I don't know, you're in a whole different state, but I imagine there was a time where there wasn't social work or therapist.
Right. Well, New York is in the process of looking at putting a certification together for our mental health providers and having them be a part of our school system. But right now they're not. They might.
Okay.
Yeah, they might come in through a community agency, but that's really dependent on each district.
Right.
So,
yeah.
What their community foundations and programs are like. But right now in New York, we're mostly school counselors, in schools. Social workers are starting to come in. Social workers have been around for a really long time. However, I think different parts of the state use them very differently. And New York, we don't all have the same certification in New York, believe it or not. I have mine through New York State, but if I lived in New York City, I'd have to apply and get certified in New York City. And so, yeah. And social workers can act as school counselors in New York City. They can't pretty much in the rest of us of the state, but New York City is kind of their own, they have their own challenges and their own unique system, and they have to do what they need, to service kids as well. So it's a little bit different in the city than it is in the rest of New York.
That's interesting. It's always interesting when we talk to people from different areas of the country. I'm always surprised at how little some states or some communities have support in the school counseling realm, and then it's always interesting to hear what other regions are doing and what's working. So that's always neat to hear. Carol, I'd like to know, how did you get into school counseling? How long have you been in it, and has it always been in New York, or what's your story?
Yeah, so New York, they've had school counselors for quite a long time. In fact, in 1972, I'm not, saying that I started in 1972, but in 1972 is when they officially started using the term school counselor.
Wow.
Although they still like to throw out guidance counselor, an awful lot. But they're trying. They're trying. They've been trying for a really long time. They're still trying. I got into it when I was in high school and in my first few years of college. I really thought, I'm doing the whole pre-med thing. I like blood, I like guts, I like things that gush. Like, I was all about that. If there was like something with goo, let me into it. Needless to say, cutting up the earthworms and things like that in science class, I was all over it. So go to college thinking, yeah, this is it, I'm great. I joined the ambulance squad. Guess what? I was really annoyed when people would call me at 3:00 in the morning and say, hey, come to my dorm and help me, because I'm like, did something I probably shouldn't have done. I soon discovered that was not the career for me, because I really value sleep. So I had to think, what else was I going to do? I was really active in my college community. And so I was in student government there, and I worked at the campus information desk, and I did tours and all that kind of stuff, and taught swim lessons and things. And I worked for a woman who was in charge of the, student government and student affairs and things like that. And I thought she had a really awesome job. She got to talk to kids all day. She got to do different things. She had her hands kind of in everything. And I was like, oh, I really love her job. So I asked her, I'm like, how did you get this position? She's like, I had to be a school counselor first. So I went in the very next day and changed my major. I was like, okay, well, I had to ask her, like, what do I do for that? And she's like, well, you have to major in either psychology or sociology or anthropology. So I looked at all my classes and I was like, okay, well, I've taken 3 classes in anthropology, but only 1 psych course. So I'm going to change my major to anthropology. And I did that very day.
Oh, wow.
So here I am. I thought I was going to go in the college level, but after doing my internship with those little munchkins in middle school, I was sold. I was like, oh my God, I love them.
Oh, we're so glad that you found your place. So you've done middle school and high school
and elementary.
And now elementary.
I hate to even ask this, but do you have a favorite?
Oh, that's bad. That's like, do you have a favorite child?
It kind of is like that. It's like, which child do you like the most?
Let me rephrase it then. What's your favorite thing about each level?
Okay, that's an easier question.
Okay.
So with the high school kids, I was a junior and senior counselor, so I loved the whole college admissions and having them like see that little light bulb go off above their head as to, oh, this is what I want to do. I just think it's so cool to talk to them and hear their hopes and their dreams and their aspirations, and I just love that part. I also loved working with the kids who were really had some of their own special issues, because let's face it, high schoolers deal with a lot of stuff. Mm-hmm. And so I work with a lot of students that cut and that ran away, and they hold very special places in my heart. And then with middle school, well, my brain kind of works like a 12-year-old. So I fit in there really well. Because I really am. I'm a big kid, and I like to play, and I like to goof around, and I'm kind of crazy. And so that really fits with my personality. And then I moved to elementary, and I was with my first year second graders, and they scared me. I remember going into a class and I'm coming out, and I was just like in tears. I'm like, I can't get them to listen to me. Right? And I was really sad. And so I was like trying to get 2 to like pay attention over on this side of the room, and on the other side of the room I look, and they're like, one kid's trying to hit the other one. I'm like, oh, don't do that. And then these 2 are back to arguing, and I was like, oh my gosh, what did I do? So I finally figured out how to whip them into shape, and now I love those little people. And I have first graders this year. Oh, they are like my little loves.
Oh, they are. They're so sweet. Well, so is your school? I'm sorry, Laura. I'm going to give you this talking stick. Is this a pretty big school that you're at now, Carol? Is it you said y'all hired another counselor. Is there a couple of you guys?
There's 3 of us. We have students in our building, so we have a nice little caseload of 200 each. It's a really beautiful thing. We really get to know our people and work with them, and it's great because this is the first position where I only do the role of a school counselor. I don't wear anything with discipline. I don't have to chase kids around if they're misbehaving. Like, I come in and I counsel kids, and I talk to them, and I teach my lessons, and we do some IEP counseling. No, I don't really do a lot of that, but I do have a couple kids on my caseload, and so life is just great. Life is great.
That is awesome. That sounds like the dream, but you deserve it. You've been doing it a little bit, so you deserve it. Go ahead, Laura. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No, you're fine.
I'm excited.
And she kind of answered my question with that. So I'm going to go back to interviews for a second. And I would like for you to tell us maybe some of the most common questions that you're seeing people ask. What are your interview tips?
Okay. So if you follow any of the groups in Facebook, the question that they ask the most is, what questions should I prepare for? That's kind of like a loaded question.
That is. It
is. Right? So my advice that I have for that is that you don't. You can't prepare for everything. But what you can do is you can prepare for the 3 that they're definitely going to ask. And you probably already know what they're going to ask. Tell us about yourself. Right?
Yeah.
Number 1 question. Why do you want to work here? And so those are usually the first 2. And then the last one, what do you think it is?
I would think, what questions do you have for us?
Ding, 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 you're a winner. Yay! Yes, it's that. So what questions do you have for us? So if you can nail those 3, you're pretty much golden, right? So the first 2, they're going to set you up for how you answer all the other questions, right?
Ooh.
So if you can really show them that you're confident and that you're proud and that you're excited in those first 2, by the time you get to, and they ask you question 3, you're going to be like in your groove. And once you get in your groove, you're good to go.
That is. I think that you would be inspiring for counselors who've been doing it a while who have not found their leadership self. We talk about that a lot. Find your leadership self, and I think you would be a very empowering person to follow, because I think that school counselors sometimes need to be reminded that they're leaders and to be empowered. And so I can see how you would help folks in the questioning for jobs, but also just empowering school counselors. And you do advocate. So tell us what you do in that realm, in the advocating for school counselor realm. I'm sorry, Laura, did I cut you off on your interview? I think you're trying to get another job. Are you wanting more interview questions, Laura?
You go ahead. You're fine.
Okay, so how do we advocate? This could actually be an interview question too. How would you advocate for students or for your profession? Like, how do you advocate? How are you a leader, right? I think schools want their school counselors to be leaders in some way, shape, or form. So it's a good question. How I would answer it in an interview might be a little bit different from right now, but I think what I would say, for me, for advocating for school counselors, it's just, you have to find your true authentic self, right? You have to be who you are. You have to stand up for what's right. But you also have to really be able to empower those that you're working with, right? And so sometimes, like I see in our Facebook groups, counselors that don't really, their personal values are very different than what maybe ASCA values. And so you have to sometimes put your own personal values aside, right? And you have to look at the values that the organization is saying, these are important for our kids because they are for every single kid. And we want to make an impact for all, not just for some. So it's about really reaching out, sometimes going out of your comfort zone and saying, this is truly what we need to do because this is the right thing to do. This is what is ethical. This is what is important. This is what's going to make an impact.
Powerful answer. And you advocate, we've alluded to it, you do things at the state level too, correct?
I do. So I'm, this year I'm the past president of NISCA, which is the New York State School Counselor Association.
Wow.
I will be going in Vegas, I'll be part of the Leadership Development Institute. Do you guys know what that is?
Talk to us about it because I am lost.
So we call it LDI for short, but the Leadership Development Institute is like 2 days before the ASCA conference, and that's where all the state leaders come together and they talk about school counseling. It's like you get your little goosebumps on talking about it with all these people that are super passionate. It's really pretty cool. And really, that's what you do all day long, how to really go and advocate for your people. And how do you show that advocating for your people is going to impact more kids. So it's really such a neat experience.
So find who those folks are in your state for our listeners and make sure that they know what you're passionate about because they have a voice. So that's exciting to know.
Yep. So,
and speaking of Vegas, we already have our showgirl outfits. So we're excited to be going and hope to get to meet you in person again, and I will try to be awake.
So embarrassing.
We laugh every time we think about it.
We do. I want you to tell us about this newest program that you have going on, the Hive. Tell us about that.
So the Hive is a place for the busy school counselor, like a busy bee in the Hive. So the Hive is a little collection where what I want to have is school counselors that maybe need to refresh in some skills, or who are brand new out of the starting box or a starting gate, who have maybe lost their why. And I want to help them find those reasons. But it's also about feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm so overworked and I'm so overstressed, and my life is going in 80 million directions at once, and how do I make sense of it all, and how do I accomplish everything that I want to accomplish? And it's about helping them to find those systems and put those systems into place to give them that organization, right? So I just did a little survey with some of my new members, saying, like, what do you see as the ideal school counselor? And it's pretty amazing how they define that person. And every single one that has responded so far, they all said, to me, the ideal counselor has it all going on, right? They can balance and juggle this whole different, all the different components of a ask a model system, even if they don't use the term ask a model. But they all want a comprehensive program that does a whole bunch of things and includes the individual counseling and the group counseling and the lessons and being the resource provider and helping their teachers and doing a giving program, during the holidays. They want all of it, right? But looking at every single piece of thing that they need to do is just like, oh my gosh, how do I fit it all in? And so, but if you build these systems, right, even though if it takes a little bit of time at the beginning, it makes it so much easier later on. My day is 9 to 3. And I put a whole lot of stuff in my 9 to 3, right? Are there times that I stay late? Yeah, but it's not every day. And it's to make sure my system's in place to make sure that I can, be successful later on. So.
Wow. That's so interesting. And I know, I feel like that's what I need. Right, Laura?
I'm signing you up, Kim. I'm signing you up.
Like, how do I keep all these balls in the air and make it work?
First order of business, get Carol Miller's day planner, okay?
We are crazy about Carol Miller's day planner.
We are. I mean, it is never within, it's always with me. Always. I practically sleep with it under my pillow.
That is the truth. She's got a true statement. And just in case something happens, it goes back and forth home. And just in case something happened and I couldn't get back to school, I've got my Carol Miller day planner.
Yeah.
So it's even better this year. I did a little survey and I wanted to find out what people loved, what they were missing. And so I really listened to people and I took everything to heart, what they said that they loved or they hated. And I think this is probably the best one that I've ever made.
Oh, wow.
I cannot wait.
I can't imagine how it would be better.
I know you're scared, Laura, because you have got it down pat.
Yeah.
You have got yours down pat. And I love that there's choices. There's some choices and so mine looks a little bit different than Laura's, even though we do a lot of things the same. The way we think is a little different. So you've got choices in there, and aesthetic choices, and how you function choices. It's just a great.
I want to show you what Kim taught me. So Kim gets these binder rings, and so you can, I don't know, she got them at the craft store. And so it makes the pages like where you can add them and take them out. And that was revolutionary for me because I would get mine bound once I felt like I had it together, and it was a lot of pressure to think, okay, is there anything else I could possibly want to add? And now I can add and take away whatever I need to. So that's for all of you people that buy this planner, make it to where you can add and take away pages. It's the best.
I think it's called something, and I can't think of what it's called. It's like you get the disc, and you have to have the special, instead of the hole punch, you're using just makes the slits within it. So I don't know if that made it any easier. Maybe you can add it at the end of this podcast, Laura, so people will see. But yes, if you do not have this planner, it is a game changer. Or is for us. We love it with our colored pencils.
Thanks for that.
Oh, we mean it. We absolutely mean it. We do not. We can't. We're already excited to run ours off for next year. So that will happen this week.
Has like aligning your whole program, and it has a spot to put your annual calendar, thing to look at your mindsets and behaviors, and like the closing the gap type thing. And then on the bottom of all like the schedule pages, now there's like little boxes for what kind of task it is, so that you can kind of color code and things like that.
Oh wow! So that will help us keep up with our time, just by color coding and looking at the boxes. I cannot wait. Well, we have let's see, 2.5 days left. I guess about 2 days left of school. So it will have to happen. Like I always do it before the end of the school so I can play with it all summer. So it's going to have to happen in the next couple of days. How long before you guys get out?
We go until the end of June. So my last day is like the 25th. Well, I'm not even sure. It's whatever that Friday of June is.
I gotcha. So yeah, we get out a lot earlier, but we start a lot earlier. So I'm always amazed how that all changes from state to state too. But it has been a unique year and a lot of challenges, and so we look forward to getting back at it and all the helps that you provide on TPT, all the helps that through your Facebook groups. We just, on behalf of all counselors, we just thank you for all that you do. And seriously, if there was a walk of fame, you would definitely be right up at the top.
Yes.
Aww.
So is there anything before we go? Because I am going in for a mammogram. I'm just going to go ahead and tell all the listeners that. And it has been pre-COVID. So it's been a hot minute, and this is sad, but I'm looking forward to it. I'm just going to be honest with everybody. I have so little to look forward to. I'm sitting in my van like a crazy woman, people walking by going, what is she doing in her van that long? It's like this is a little mini vacation, sadly. So is there anything that you want our listeners to know, or anything else that you got coming up or in the works? Always something, but anything you'd like to share?
There's totally always something in the works, that's for sure. I'm just really, really excited about the Hive program. I think it's going to be really helpful. I'm so excited to really have a smaller group of people to talk with and converse with, because my Facebook groups are so big that it's hard to have, I think, sometimes personal connections with people. So I'm excited to have some really deeper personal connections with school counselors and really just truly make an impact. I think that's why I do everything that I do. It's really all about kids, and how many kids can we impact.
You're absolutely right. And now your Hive program, is it a membership where, tell us a little bit about how it works.
So right now it's closed. I closed our little pre-launch type thing. Because my website's really not ready yet, and it will be ready in July. And so once it's kind of to the point where I'm not embarrassed to show people what it looks like, I will open it back up. I'm having it actually professionally done, so it really will look very so. But it will have like a library in there with different resources that people can access. We will still continue. I have like this little Facebook group for the Hive right now. That's how we're doing things. And we have once a month we do a Zoom on like a topic. So each month has a different topic of things to focus on. I do give homework assignments, but it's to help them. So sometimes you got to do the work if you want the results.
Right.
So I'm making them do a little work. And then from there, we have a monthly Q&A session so that we can go over the work that we're doing together. And I'm just going to try to keep give them stuff that they can use, stuff that I use that really is helpful to me. Because I'll be honest, it took me a long time to get where I am today. I didn't start off this way. School counseling is a thing where you think you know it all because you just graduated, and then like a year or two gets in, and you're like, oh my God, I don't know anything. What's wrong with me? And then from there, you find your groove, and you're like, man, I'm golden. I'm like awesome. And then you get a little older. We won't say how old, but you get a little older, and you're like, oh my God, like what happened? Do I belong in this time? Because everything is brand new again. I don't know anything. And so then you start to melt again, and then you find your groove, and now you're like, I'm a rock star, right? And so right now I'm feeling like I'm a rock star because I kind of have it all together. But I went through all those stages where I knew absolutely everything to nothing, everything to nothing. So, and when I first started, I really thought that the best way to make an impact and be my best counselor self was to be the first one in the morning and the last person to leave. And that just really left me stressed and burnt out, right? And I wasn't being my best counselor self. I was busy, but I wasn't productive. So
that's good.
And there's a big difference between the two. So right now I'm productive. I'm busy,
that's good.
but I'm productive.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. That is so good. Everything coming out of your mouth is gold. So Carol, if you see me in Vegas, can I say, hey, Carol Miller? And you won't be embarrassed. And then I'm going to say, and then I'm going to look around like I know her, whatever.
It depends on how you're dressed, Kim. If you're dressed, if you're wearing
cloak.
I'll probably be in my yoga pants. Of course, they're dress pants, yoga pants, but they're still yoga pants. And I'll probably be wearing like a polo shirt, and probably pink because that's usually my thing. So if you see like me in a pink polo shirt and like probably black yoga pants, come over, say hi, because that'll be me.
Okay.
So don't think it's weird if I'm wearing the same thing. Don't think I'm stalking.
Now that she knows that's all that's going to be in her suitcase.
That's all I'm packing just because I'm going to say Carol Miller said. So, all right, I'm going in here for my checkaroonie. And Carol, thank you so much. I'm going to leave you guys, and I will talk to you soon.
All right. Bye,
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Well, is there anything else that we haven't talked about that you feel like needs a little bit of time?
I think the one thing, I want to go back to the interviewing just
a
little tiny bit because we really didn't talk a whole lot about resumes.
Yes.
And honestly, with the number of people that are applying for these school counselor positions, if the resume is not looking good, you're not even going to get the chance for the interview, right? So you have to really make sure that your resume has some good stuff in it.
So what have you seen that stands out, either good or bad?
It always amazes me. So in this last round of interviewing that we did, some of the resumes that I looked at, they didn't even say that they did counseling. That's kind of a problem,
Yeah.
Or one didn't even say that she was a school counselor on it. Like there was no title of what she did. She just kind of listed, I work here.
So it was just a general education resume for whatever position came available? Okay.
Apparently.
Yeah.
So, you have to be able to show those really small things.
Mm-hmm.
It's also really good to think about who are all the stakeholders that I'm going to have contact with in my position, right? Am I going to be working with parents? Am I going to be working with students? Well, of course, but am I going to be working as part of the administration team? What kinds of supports for teachers will I have to provide, right? And your resume needs to address all those areas. How do you work with all of those people? And so many of them, they don't, right? They just try to put in some of the real basic things, or they put a lot of numbers. I worked with grades K through 6, and I had 1,200 kids on my caseload. Personally, I don't care. I just want to know that you work in an elementary school, and I want to know what you do. I don't care how many I deal with. And that might be my own personal thing, but numbers don't really belong on
Well, you're right. You're right, because if you have 1,200 kids, that's a lot of kids, but it's more about what did you do with them, or how did you make them feel like individuals rather than a clump of students.
Exactly. So you really want to have those highlights.
Okay.
So, and start everything with the verb. You're using your bullet points and you're starting with the verb, and you're going to be consistent throughout. And then, get a template. Buy one online, get them down, download them free, go and use Canva, do whatever you have to do, but make it visually appealing. Because honestly, people are only going to give it like 3 seconds. They're going to look at it and say, do I want to continue reading this, or do I want to put it in the no way pile? Right?
That's good. So I've heard one page, I've heard as many pages as possible. What is the Carol Miller rule for length of a resume?
If you are brand new, 1 page is good enough.
Okay.
If you have been a school counselor for a while, you might need 2 pages. 3, you are really pushing it, and can you cut back on something? So 2 pages is good. 3 is way too many.
Okay.
1 can be sweet.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. You're right. A resume, that's what gets you in the door to even get to the interview. So, yeah, that's got to look good and be impressive. So, very valuable.
So, but yeah. And other than that, just show that you want to have fun and you want to, enjoy working with kids.
Well, this has definitely lived up to everything that I imagined this interview would be. So I've been looking forward to it so much, and we have been so excited to have you. And I still don't think that I have any more insight onto how you do everything that you do, because you juggle so much that it just, like I said, it seems like you're superhuman. So.
Well, if you could see me in real life.
I hear you. Well, thank you for coming on, and thank you again for everything that you do. You've been instrumental in my school counseling life, and so you've impacted, in a way, all of the students that I've impacted because of your new student small group, and definitely my planner and the lessons that I've used of yours. So thank you so much for everything that you do for counselors.
Thank you. I think you and Kim actually do. I think you probably impact maybe more people than I do. Right? So I listen to your podcast in the car, and I listen to the stories, and I listen to the people that you have on, and you had on. I think it was pretty recently. Is his name Quan?
Yes.
And I'm in the car and I'm crying. I'm like, oh my God. And it's just, you have to hear those stories. And I think it's really important to have, that you share stories like that, because these are the people that we're working with. Maybe we don't know it right now, but this is what our families, this is what their lives are like. This is some of the things that they're dealing with. And this is why what we do is so important. So you guys are doing great work.
Oh, thank you. Well, it's just a mutual admiration then, I guess. Thank you very much for those kind words. And an open door policy for you. Anytime you have something that you want to share, we would love to have you on. So consider yourself, we may ask you to speak in your Southern accent now that we know that you have one.
Don't worry.
Thank you again.
All right. Thanks. Have a great night.
I could not love Carol Miller more.
I love her more, and you had to leave early, and so she and I worked out a few things, and she and I are going to be working on some projects together, and
I literally, she asked me to help work on the calendar for the 23-24. And there's going to be some options of my photograph for front cover of her new of her planner. So I don't know what you're talking about. She asked me to room with her in Vegas.
She's here right now. So
come in, Carol. That's funny. She's here. All right, we have played that out, which is always so funny to us. So why is that funny to us? I don't know, because it's probably not funny to us. There is a skit that Kristen Wiig does on SNL where it's like, I'm already doing that, and that's It makes me crack up laughing every time. She is wonderful.
Yeah.
And so I am always amazed, and I do not know why, all of these folks that I just admire and emulate. Is emulate a word, or am I Mara on Schitt's Creek again? Emulate? Emanates? Eliminates?
Well, now you've gotten me confused.
I'm copied her.
Emulate. I think it's.
I said that.
No.
Or maybe I didn't.
Farming.
But anyway, they're so humble.
Yeah. Unlike you.
I was going to say, please hear my heart when I say they are so humble, which I think has led to their greatness. Please hear me. Hear the message, what I'm saying, without saying it.
I'm passing the offering plate.
So she's just wonderful, and I'm always inspired, but I think she's the busiest person that I know. Seriously.
I know. I was in awe. Like, I will never complain about being busy again, because I'm going to get a bracelet that says, "Are you busier than Carol Miller?" No, you're not. So quick.
So shut your mouth. You're not as busy. But you know what? She says she likes that. And that made me feel pretty good, because I kind of like having a lot of, a lot of things that you're juggling at one time is kind of fun for me too.
Yeah. So just to be clear, do I need to check with Laura Ross and see if she wants us to room with her? Because if not, I really felt like clearly Carol Miller was asking us to.
How about this? Let's draw straws, see who gets to. I mean, it's a win-win.
It is.
So, one of us can room with Laura Ross, and Russ Sabella. Is he off the table with rooming you with? I don't know. I mean, I'm just saying, is that on the table? So there are so many people, great people there. It's like we are going to be like at some kind of Woodstock, and like we're seeing all these great people.
I'm thinking that our eyes are going to light up the way that my little girls do whenever they see the princesses at Disney World.
Yes.
So that's going to
Speaking of princesses, Disney World, how about that be our wardrobe of choice?
Okay, I'm up for it.
Who? Yeah, I can see that, and I'll be brave.
Sweet story though, when we went to Disney World one time, that is my 4-year-old's favorite, and I can put the picture up for those of you that are viewing. But that was the first one, the first princess we went to go see when we got there, and she nuzzled in on Merida. And Merida wouldn't let her go. She wouldn't. I mean, she would. But, like, Ellie Blair.
She attacked your child.
Police. That would have been a better story. And now I regret that that's not the way the story ends. But it was so sweet, because Ellie Blair just got up in her, like, crook of her arm. And Merida.
All those red curls.
All those red curls. And Merida looked at me and she said in her Scottish accent, which I'm not going to attempt.
Please attempt.
I can't. All I have is Boston and Southern. That's all I have.
Okay, sing it and I'll do it in Scottish. What did she say?
She said, "I'll keep this little nugget with me all day."
I'll keep this little nugget with me all day.
That was it. It sounded more like Scrooge McDuck than Meredith.
But not bad.
Not bad.
In the general region.
Enough, so I'm going to give you credit for it.
Thank you. That is allowed. I really have a hard time with my Irish Scottish. So for everyone Irish Scottish listening, I apologize.
Not to mention just the general dialect anyway. Like
I just want to apologize for the way I speak on a day-to-day basis. Just how I sound daily, I apologize.
Have you seen our superintendent and what he did and how it's going viral?
Let me see, since I'm very close to our superintendent. Really, I don't know. What did he do?
Well, okay. His mother shared this story on Facebook this morning that our superintendent, Dr. Shane Barnett, he'll do the call out messages, like whenever there is a weather report, whether school delay or anything like that. And I have to say that I have been told, I have people that are outside our school district that are on the pickup list for my child, and they have said he sounds so compassionate. Whenever he is doing the dismissal, it's like, I hate to do this, but we've got to keep these babies safe. And you can just tell when he does a message like that how much he loves the students. So there's this little boy in our school system, and his mother posted this on Facebook, and she said, please share this far and wide. And so her little boy has autism, and he has become fixated and fascinated with Shane Barnett, our superintendent. And so when he calls and does the weather report or the weather delay or whatever, this little boy thinks he's calling him personally. And he'll come in and he's like, Shane Barnett called me. Did y'all hear that? He left me a voicemail. So he's like obsessed with wanting to go to McDonald's with Dr. Barnett. And so the message got back, and I'll get emotional probably because this is the type of person that we work for, and we're so blessed. But the message got back to Dr. Barnett, and he called this little boy's phone personally and left a voicemail saying, hey, I want to go to McDonald's. He said, I'm going to McDonald's, and I want to meet you there, and let's go out to the lake and eat our McDonald's lunch together. And he said, I'm looking forward to it, and let's do this. So this mom is arranging this meeting, and she just wanted our community to know what a superintendent we have.
That is a great story. I love that story. That is a heartwarming story.
It is.
I love it. It's what it's all about. It's what it's all about, the kids.
Yes.
Each individual and taking time to
Now,
do stuff.
Let me end by saying this. We will be doing a training on trauma on June 5th in Winchester, Tennessee. And like I said earlier, last week or on our last podcast, if you're anywhere close to Winchester, Tennessee, we would love for you to come out and attend this training. And you can email us for more information. And then I also said on the last one, if you'd like for us to come speak in your school about trauma, which I can speak on because I travel with Kim, or any of our other topics, we would be happy to. Just send us an email and we'll get you on our calendar. Anything else you'd like to add, Kim?
All hearts and minds are clear. Have a great week, folks.